Hey there everyone, and how are you guys doing today? I am Joe Mari, and welcome to another video from Mobile Cup of Joe. Now in this video here today, I'm going to be giving you my full review of the LG G Flex on AT&T. So guys, the LG G Flex is a curved smartphone. You can see right there, it is curved. It goes down and up. It's a curved phone. The screen is curved, which allows you to flex the phone and bend it, so if it's in your back pocket and you sit on it, it will flex, hence the name LG G Flex. Along with that, you have a 13 megapixel rear-facing camera. The rear buttons we first saw on the LG G2, Qualcomm Snapdragon 800 processor, and a bunch more awesome specs. Pretty solid phone right here, really solid offering. I'm going to go through what I like, what I don't like, all that more in my full review of the LG G Flex and AT&T, which starts right now on MCOJ. But before we go any further, please go ahead and grab that coffee cup, fill it up, bring it over, and sit on down. Take a swig from your mobile cup of Joe. Alrighty, and here I go with my full review for the LG G Flex. Again, big thank you to my friends and partners over at AT&T for hooking me up with this device and allowing me to review it for you guys today. To kick off the review, start out by pronouncing our words correctly, let's go ahead and talk about that design, which is easily one of the biggest aspects for this device. On the front, we do have a 6-inch display. Below that, we have an LG logo, and we do have on-screen navigational buttons, no capacitive touch buttons here. Going up top, we have our little speaker for making calls, and we have our front-facing camera. Moving along to the back side, we have our 13 megapixel rear camera with LED flash, and that's your flash right there. And this is actually an IR blaster, which is kind of an awkward placement because instead of having an IR blaster on the top like most phones do, where you can hold your phone this way and operate your TV like this, you kind of have to hold the LG G Flex this way so the IR blaster can reach and shoot out to your TV. So kind of a weird thing that LG did with that. I would have much rather preferred them place it on the top. Just kind of a weird placement there for an infrared blaster. Now, of course, we do have our rear-facing control keys with our volume up, volume down, and our power button located in the middle of those. Now, in my review for the LG G2, I wasn't that big of a fan of them, but using the G Flex, I actually grew quite accustomed to them. I found it very easy, get out of the camera, to go ahead and adjust the volume. It's very easy to determine what button's volume up, what button's volume down, and what button you use to power off the screen. After using it for just a couple hours, it became a really meaningless and painless task, if I can say words. Words are fun. Really painless task to go ahead and do that. Very easy, again, very easy to determine what's what. It's going to take some getting used to, that's for sure, but I did really like the implementation of that here on the LG G Flex. Now let's stop wasting time and talk about that curve. You can see this is a curved phone. You look at something like the Nokia Lumia icon just happens to be sitting here. There is no curve to that puppy at all. But then we look at the G Flex, major curvature going on right here. Now what's nice with this is that if you're watching a movie or a video, you hold and it kind of curves around in your hand and provides a really nice kind of cinematic viewing experience for you. Or if you're playing a game, to have that curve right here, racing or driving or something, or playing with a shooter. Really, really nice curve here. And it does look a bit drastic at first, but it's actually very, very subtle. Using the phone, just normal day-to-day tasks, you really kind of forget it's there. Now, you can still obviously feel it, but it just really isn't super crazy like you might think it is. Really isn't that big of a deal. Well, it's a big deal, but it doesn't really throw you off. It still operates normally just like you think it would. Well, again, if you're watching a movie, playing a game, or holding this up to your ear, or your cheek rather, glides perfectly along it with that nice curve, and the way it is curved, and it feels very nice. Now, because it's curved, it can also flex when you bend it, hence the name LG G Flex. So as you can see right here, the phone is resting on its back. If I go ahead and apply pressure, you see the phone is bending and is flexing to the table, but it is not breaking or anything. So you can see there's kind of some space right there. Apply pressure and it works just fine. Now what's kind of cool is that I actually had a friend of mine who was he's a big dude. He's around 200 plus pounds, pretty heavy dude. And I had him sit on this in a flat surface, and I had him sit on the back, and it just flexed like this and did not break at all, and I was really impressed. The flexing on this really is quite nice and is a very, very cool aspect for this device. Now let's go ahead and move on to some hardware aspects for the G Flex. In terms of the display, it is 6 inches with a resolution of 1280 by 720p HD display. Now, since it is only a 720p HD display, you're not getting the highest pixel density out there on a 6-inch display. You will notice that some of the icons do tend to look a bit fuzzy. Colors are relatively good. It's a decent display. Text is still easy to read, just not the sharpest out there. Some of the icons, like I said, do look a bit fuzzy and soft at times. Images in general don't always look the greatest, and especially on your notification bar. Let me make sure there's no email addresses showing in there. You can see that up here, there's some sort of weird screen texture going on. Not sure if you can see it on the display through the camera lens, but it's this weird kind of artificially texture thing going on. Not sure what it is. Overall, I'm not a super gigantic fan of the display. It works relatively good, but it really would have been nice to see 1080p Full HD on here. 720p HD resolution is great. It works fantastic on my Motorola Moto X, but that's 4.7 inches. You're talking a 6-inch display, you're going to want something with a 1080p resolution at least. So display is okay, it gets the job done, doesn't look bad by any means, but it is not the highest density in terms of pixels out there. If I use screen buffs, really high definition buffs, this is not going to be the display for you. Now in terms of raw processing power, the LG G Flex does have 2 gigabytes of RAM, along with a Qualcomm Snapdragon 800 quad-core processor. Let's go ahead and load up Gameloft real quick right here. Asphalt Airborne 8. And we're going to go ahead and go play this. Zoom in a touch so you can see more of the action. We'll just go to the first race, Asphalt 8. There's always a... Turn down that volume. It's always a great go-to test game of mine because the graphics are intense. The free price tag doesn't hurt either. Requires a lot of processing power to run smoothly. I just think it's a great game to test out with these products that I review. And it's loading up here right now. Now I had a really good time playing games and multitasking and whatnot on the LG G Flex. Snapdragon 800 processor has proved to be quite a powerhouse, but I will say that since having seen the 801 on devices like the HTC One M8, I did notice a bit of a downgrade coming to the G Flex after reviewing the all-new HTC One. It's not that big of a difference. You can see the game still runs very smooth on here. I'm not saying it doesn't. Very, very playable. Still looks really good, especially on that curved display. You get that nice look with the curve. But I did notice that the frame rate tended to be a little bit slower on here when compared to the One M8, just because you do have a lower processor on here. The 801, like I said, is not the biggest improvement in terms of processors from the 801 to the 800, but I did find the 801 provided a bit better experience on the One M8, and coming, like I said, from that to this, I did notice some downgrades. Still runs very great, multitasking still runs good, but there's just some nitpicking here and there with it being kind of an outdated processor at this point in time. Go ahead and back out of that. If you're a normal user, you're going to have no trouble at all dealing with this. You can go ahead. See, the rotation is pretty snappy, no real lag at all with that. So it's still a speedy phone. Not saying that I'm just saying that with the 801 out there, it is possible to get better processing speeds. And when there's better something out there and there's an outdated chipset in a phone, that's always kind of a turn-off for me. Now let's go ahead and talk about that camera. We have a 13 megapixel rear-facing camera on the back and a front-facing camera as well. Now in regards to the camera software, it's a pretty basic thing with LG's fare of things. You have cheese shutter, where you can say different things like cheese, whiskey, smile, kimchi, and LG, which is always fun to go around a public place and shout kimchi and have your phone take a picture. Let's go ahead and do that. Kimchi. Snapping a picture, that's always fun. Freak people out when you do that. You also have brightness, image size. You can choose 10 megapixels versus I shot with, or 13 megapixels, but that's going to cut it down to a 4:3 aspect ratio. We have color effect, which gives you some 4 little colors right there to choose from, different effects. You can adjust your ISO, you can adjust your timer, you can adjust your shutter sound, a volume capture key, which is nice to have auto review your basic slew of settings here. You can swap to the front facing camera just like that. Go ahead and hop back. If we tap on mode, we can choose normal, shot and clear, looking very similar to kind of Samsung's UI with all their different modes: VR, panorama, a time catch shot, intelligent audio, night dual camera, which is of course a feature where you can capture an image using the front facing camera as well, along with the rear facing camera. Go ahead and take a selfie while taking a picture of the table. So fun little things like that. What's interesting though is that I found that the viewfinder didn't provide that accurate of a representation where the pictures turned out, because through the viewfinder I found that the pictures looked really soft and rather dull. However, after looking at the pictures on the phone after taking them on my computer, I found that they looked relatively good. This is not the best camera out there by any means, but it is a 13 megapixel shooter and takes relatively good photos. Color is pretty bright and very accurate. Detail is pretty sharp too. All in all, this is a really solid camera. Now, you're going to get better shooting experiences out there with phones like the iPhone 5S and the Samsung Galaxy S5, but this is not a camera to laugh at. 13 megapixels, a high quality LED flash works relatively good like you'd expect LED to do so, and really was pretty impressed with the camera on here. LG always does a pretty good job with their optics, and the LG G Flex is no exception. Again, if you do some looking, you are going to find better cameras out there, but for a curved phone, this is probably one of the best cameras on a curved phone. There's not many out there. There's only this and the Galaxy Round, really the big two really popular ones, but this is a good, solid camera. Yeah, good camera. Not too much else to say about that. In regards to the battery life, there is a 3,500 milliamp hour battery packed inside, and with good, probably moderate to lightish use, you can easily get 2 days out of this bad boy. If you're power using it, using a lot of juice, you are going to probably have to charge at the end of the day. But for me, I was able to get through 2 days of use with heavy Facebook messaging, lots of checking Facebook and Twitter, loading those feeds, an email account, syncing emails every 15 minutes, taking a lot of pictures, and I was still able to squeeze through a couple of days if I was conservative with kind of what my usage was at. So I think if you are concerned about battery, it is non-removable, but having 3,500 milliamp hours to work with, you should be fine with the battery here on the LG G Flex. Now let's dive into the software. The LG G Flex is running Android version 4.2.2 Jelly Bean. Go ahead and go to General, go to About Phone, go to Software Information. You can see right there, Android version 4.2.2 Jelly Bean, and that's a bit of a disappointment. You don't get the immersion mode introduced with 4.4 KitKat. You don't get the smaller, well, with KitKat, you know how they made it less processor intensive, so you don't get that with it. You don't have 4.3 Jelly Bean on here even. So we're the latest version of Android we're looking at now is 4.4.3. We have 4.2.2 on here. We're a few versions behind at this point. And although it's snappy, it runs smooth, I do miss having KitKat here on this device. Now this is obviously running LG's Optimus user interface. If you go into our settings, we can see that very clearly where the settings are divided into these kind of categories. If we go over to display, we can go to home screen, select home, we can go to easy home, which is LG's kind of simplified user interface, where you just have the weather right there, clock, browser, messaging, contacts, camera, gallery. You can add stuff here, hop into your applications right here where the icons are very, very big, as you can see. And you can't do any scrolling from here. You're limited to this screen. You can't turn it horizontally. This is your screen. And I think a lot of people are going to like this, especially for elders out there who maybe they're buying a smartphone for the first time. They want something with a big display. I think this is going to be something they're going to be very comfortable with. So if you pick up the phone, go ahead and unlock it. You just have right there your weather and very quick access to the content you need. It's really necessary for the phone. So it's not the best easy mode for a smartphone, but it is nice. I like how the dialer is right there, because a lot of people just want to use their phone for a phone sometimes, while still having those options and all your apps located right there as well. So really nice easy mode. I really do like to see those on smartphones. I know it's not the most exciting feature, but it is nice. You can see that in the settings, it increases the size of the text. So I do like to see that stuff for maybe people who have a hard time seeing, or people who just want an easier viewing experience on their smartphone. That's just always a feature I am really geeked to see. go ahead and hop back to home for now because we don't need easy home. And if we go back to our settings, look at a few other software tweaks LG has. We can go to front touch buttons, go to button combination, and we can choose the combination of the front buttons here. So if we go to something like this, we can tap a button and have our notification panel slide down. If we go to a setup like this, we can tap this icon, and we will have quick memo pop up where we can make notes and whatnot with our fingers. And we'll go ahead and back out of that. The one I use is this right here because I just kind of like that. That's what's on my Moto X. I'm not used to having that back button right there like I know a lot of Samsung Galaxy phones are, but that's actually a really good point. If you're coming to this from a Samsung product and you see that back button being on the right, you can choose that right here, which is very cool. If we go to color, we can go to color matching apps, so we can choose if we want it white all the time, we can choose if we want it black gradient all the time, or we can choose to have it switch matching what app we are in. Now if we go to font type, we can change the font type, we can change the font size. Smart video, if you look away from the screen while watching a video, it will stop it. And if we also go ahead and hop into screen mode, we can choose if it's like a standard thing, vivid, natural, all the basic specs, or not specs, but features you expect from LG. Let's go ahead and hop into general. We have gestures. In terms of gestures, we do have the knock-on thing where since if a phone's lying on its back and the power button's on the back, go ahead and tap twice to unlock it. Tap twice again if you're at the home screen to lock it right there. So that's a nice feature. You do have the Optimus UI look and feel, which I'm not the biggest fan of. I think it looks kind of old at this point in time. So it would be nice to get a nice refresh to that when 4.4 KitKat rolls around. But all in all, a relatively good software experience on here. If you're a fan of LG's Optimus user interface, you're going to like it here on the G Flex. But if you don't like Optimus, if you haven't liked LG's software tweaks in the past, the G Flex is not going to change your mind about that at all. So my final thoughts on the device, I really do like the LG G Flex. I like the thought of a curved phone. Would I buy it personally? Probably not, just because I have a little reservation about that display. Call quality on here, which I forgot to mention, sounded a bit muffled at times. Wasn't really all that impressed with that. The speaker right here is very easily covered, so if you're playing a game, very easy to cover that thing and black out the sound completely. Processing speeds are good, but the 801 Snapdragon Qualcomm processor out there, I do have some hesitation about buying a device with an 800 chipset. Again, kind of nitpicky things, but I do like the fact of this is a curved display. If you want something that looks cool, something you can throw in your back pocket like a lot of us do and sit on it without having it crack, this is a very cool phone to check out. It's very unique in the fact that it is curved. There's not many curved phones out on the market. So if you want something a bit different, something with a good camera, long-lasting battery life, decent display, good processing speeds, definitely make sure you give the LG G Flex a check out when looking for your next smartphone. But guys, that's all the time I have for this episode of Mobile Cup with Joe. If you have more questions about the LG G Flex, please feel free to let me know down in the comments below. Make sure you follow Mobile Cup with Joe on Twitter, where it is at Mobile Cup of Joe, and follow my personal account as well, where I am at Joe Marion. It's a Friday. It's 5:17 at the time of recording this Friday. I am about out and done for the week. Guys, if you like the video, make sure you go ahead, hit the like button if you liked it, and click the subscribe button somewhere as well to make sure you never miss the latest episode from MCOJ. I am Joe Marion. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a wonderful day. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye-bye. Speaking right there. That's recording. Wonderful. Let's not continue that anymore. G Flex, as you can probably see right here, is a curved smartphone. Right there, this is a very curved phone. That doesn't make sense. Okay, cut. Snapdragon 800. Okay, Google. LG G Flex specifications. LG bus locations? Really? Google now. LG G Flex specifications. Thank you. Not friggin' bus locations.